That's good. All right. Sorry for the delay, everybody. We're going to go ahead and get started. Let me just share my screen. Okay. Go back to PowerPoint. All right. So are you sharing? Are you seeing my first slide?
Yes.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks. All right, so welcome everybody to our very first webinar for our 2021 Caribbean Endemic Bird Festival. We're delighted to have with us today Marta Curti and Gabriela Diaz, who will be presenting on with the talk title Communities for Conservation of the Critically Endangered Ridgways Hawk, a success story in the making. We welcome you all here. If you have any questions, please put them in the Q&A panel, and we will get to them either during the talk or at the very end. We will have time for questions and answers. And otherwise, everybody will be on mute. And if you have comments to make, you can also put them in the chat window. So without further ado, we'll get going. I just have a very quick introduction in case some of you are not familiar with BirdsCaribbean. We are a regional nonprofit, and we are dedicated to the conservation of Caribbean birds and their habitats. And together with our partners, we raise awareness, we promote sound science, and we empower local partners to build a region where people appreciate and conserve and benefit from thriving bird populations and ecosystems. So happy Earth Day. And as I said, the launch of our Caribbean Endemic Bird Festival today on April 22nd, Earth Day. So we are celebrating with the theme, Sing, Fly, Soar Like a Bird. And we are doing a virtual festival just like we did last year, called it's called From the Nest, because we're sharing from our homes. And for the next few weeks, every day we will have a new endemic bird of the day. We'll have 30 new species that we're going to cover. Last spring we did 50. And so we're really excited because we've got Josmar Esteban Marquez, a really talented artist who's created 30 new drawings for us. And so every day we'll share a new species. We'll have really cool feathery facts, coloring pages, online puzzles with beautiful photographs, activity sheets, videos, bird calls and songs, and so forth. So be sure to follow us on social media. We'll be posting nearly every day. We also have weekly webinars. So this is the first one and we have one every week for the next 6 weeks, Thursdays at 4 o'clock. We're also doing a bird zine contest. It's our first time ever. Please go to our website if you don't know what a zine is and learn all about it, and consider making one. We have some awesome prizes. The deadline for the entry is May 1st, so check it out on our website. It's a really cool way to get creative and share something about birds. And then we're also celebrating Global Big Day on May 8th. And again, you can read about that on our website. We have a really fun team competition, and it's a fundraiser for motor stations in the Caribbean. All right, so there's just a little bit of information about us. I'll put this up again at the end so you can copy this information down, and I'll also put it in the chat window. All right, so Marta, if you can start sharing your screen, I'll introduce you guys. We have Marta Curti. She's been working with the Peregrine Fund for nearly 20 years. She's worked with a number of different species of birds of prey, including Aplomado falcons, California condors, harpy eagles, and orange-breasted falcon. I wish I was you. That is so cool. Marta's been working with the Ridgways Hawk project in the Dominican Republic since 2011, and she's in charge of conducting environmental education programs, teaching people about the species and the importance of its conservation. And Marta will present first. After that, Gabriela will join us. She's a 26-year-old biologist from the Dominican Republic. She studied hotel management in 2017, but after she graduated and started working in the industry, she realized she didn't have a really strong, it didn't really make her happy. She had a much stronger drive to work in nature. So in 2019, she took a step forward and spent 7 months as a volunteer in the Ridgways Hawk project. And I think the rest is history. She ended up falling in love with the species and the project in general. So she stayed on and became a field biologist in the project. And she says this adventure has been amazing for her. So we look forward to hearing about her in the second half of the talk. All right, so I'm going to turn it over to you, Marta. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you very much, Lisa. Can you see my screen okay?
Yes, I can.
Okay, perfect. So thank you everyone for joining us this afternoon. I'm real excited to have the opportunity to speak with you about the conservation work that we're doing with the Ridgways Hawk in Dominican Republic. Of course, a huge thank you to Lisa and everyone at BirdsCaribbean for inviting us to participate. And we owe a huge debt of gratitude also to the Betty Peterson Conservation Fund. For the past 2 years, they've really supported our work, particularly our education work in Dominican Republic, which has been a huge boost to the project. And just really quickly, a shout out to our other local partners, Fundación Propagás, Fundación Grupo Punta Cana, and the National Zoo that are our three main partners in Dominican Republic. So as you know, I'm going to be speaking about our conservation work in Dominican Republic. The organization, as Lisa mentioned, that Gabriela and I work for is the Peregrine Fund. And so I just want to give you really quickly a quick history of how the organization came to be. The Peregrine Fund was founded in 1970, but I think really the history of why the Peregrine Fund exists started way back in the 1940s, 1950s. Many of you probably know that in North America, the insecticide DDT was used widely across the US, across North America. It was sprayed on crops. It was actually sprayed directly on people as a way to prevent insect-borne diseases. While that was happening, if you're familiar with Rachel Carson's book, Silent Spring, you know a little bit about the history of DDT. And so in North America, while that was happening, of course, there were biologists studying, in particular, many birds of prey, and they were noticing that one species, the peregrine falcon's populations were just kind of in this massive decline. And they would study, they would observe the nest, everything looked good, but after the female laid eggs, it seemed that the nest would just absolutely fail. And so climbing into the nest, they discovered that the eggs in the nest were all broken. And when they touched the eggshells, they were bland, they were weak. And after doing some tests, they realized that DDT was the cause. So it kind of built up, being sprayed on insects, insects being eaten by little songbirds, songbirds being consumed by peregrine falcons. So all of this insecticide was building up and accumulating within the peregrine falcons. It didn't kill them, but it affected their ability to reproduce and to absorb calcium. So all of the eggs the females were laying were just weak, and so they were not reproducing. So at that time, a man named Tom Cade, who was a professor at Cornell and a falconer, decided that he wanted to do something to save the peregrine falcon. So between 1970 and 1999, with a whole host of other organizations and individuals, the Peregrine Fund was born, and they began doing captive breeding and reintroduction, releasing, I think, over 6,000 peregrine falcons across North America in that time span. And of course, working to help get DDT banned. In 1999, the peregrine falcon was removed from the endangered species list, which is amazing. And this, to this day, is still one of the greatest conservation stories, conservation successes in history in the world. So this is pretty amazing. So from that success, the Peregrine Fund began to look at other birds of prey, and especially focusing on those birds of prey that are critically endangered or that there's just not enough known about them. So today we're working with 34 different species in over 27 countries. And of course, this now is where, oh, I forgot to mention, we have some trivia questions. So I think Lisa is gonna pop up a poll. So our first trivia question is: the Peregrine Fund was founded in order to conserve which species? A, the peregrine falcon, B, the Ridgways hawk, or C, the dodo bird? So I think you can type your answer in. Love it, love it.
Okay, answers are coming in. We'll just give you a few more seconds. Marta, you should have made the questions a little harder.
Yeah, I think so. Well, everyone's paying attention, so that's wonderful. So it looks like, yeah, 96. 90% of you got it right. One person might have made a joke. That's awesome. So yes, the Peregrine Fund was founded to conserve originally the peregrine falcon. So should we continue, Lisa?
Yes.
I think results are in. Perfect. So let me close that. We have two more trivia questions coming up. So moving on to the Ridgways Hawk, the Peregrine Fund has been working with the Ridgways Hawk since the year 2000, so a little bit over 20 years. As some of you may know, the Ridgways Hawk is a critically endangered bird of prey that is endemic to the island of Hispaniola in the Caribbean. So on this island, we have the countries of Haiti and the country of Dominican Republic. So this hawk is found nowhere else on Earth except for on the island of Hispaniola. Just a really quick background on this species. It's a medium-sized raptor. For those of you from the Americas, it looks a little bit like maybe a red-shouldered hawk, a little bit like a red-tailed hawk. And this bird has a really varied diet. It can feed on just about any sort of small prey. It eats a lot of mice and rats, snakes, lizards, insects, frogs, even small birds. So it's a really varied diet. And this bird is found a lot of times actually in edge ecosystems. So we can find it in national parks and forest areas, but it also is found in a lot of farmland that borders forests as well. One really important thing that I like to point out about this species, and really all birds of prey in the Caribbean, is that in most other places in the world, we talk about the importance of top predators, and we can talk about wolves and lions and bears and things like that. And probably many of you know the importance that top predators have in the ecosystem to maintain a balance. In the Caribbean, we really don't have any large top predators. Our only top predators are birds of prey. And so they really take on this extreme importance for conservation, not only for the individual species, but really for the ecosystems throughout the Caribbean. Other cool quick facts about the Ridgways hawk is that the pairs tend to be monogamous. The female can lay 1 to 3 eggs. They tend to put their nests in palm trees on top of active palm chat nests. So the palm chat is a songbird and is actually the national bird of Dominican Republic. And as I mentioned, they're found in edge habitats. So when we think about the biology of this hawk, it just seems like, well, their prey base is easy. They can find their prey just about anywhere. They're nesting in palm trees, which at least in Dominican Republic are quite plentiful. They can be found in forest edges. So really it seems like they're quite adaptable, which they are. But if we look at kind of historically what's been happening with this species, this map on the left kind of represents, it's a rough map, I apologize for that, but it kind of represents more or less the historic distribution of this species throughout the island of Hispaniola. It was believed to have disappeared completely from in the 1960s, but as you can see, it was once found more or less throughout the island. So in the year 2000, when the Peregrine Fund began working with this species, it had already been listed as critically endangered. The Peregrine Fund came to investigate, doing surveys across Dominican Republic, and they found only one population remaining. And this population is in Dominican Republic in Los Aitisas National Park. And it was a very small and isolated population of about 250 to 350 individuals. So we think about this Ridgways hawk population, we think about how adaptable the species is. So why was the species just disappearing? What happened? What were some of the threats that this species was facing to cause such a steep decline? Throughout, usually from between about 2000 to 2007, we were doing a lot of research to really understand what was happening with the Ridgways hawk. Unfortunately, many of the threats are the threats that wildlife all over the world are facing: habitat loss, electrocution can be a big problem for the hawks. But really the two main threats that were causing this decline were this human persecution, the deliberate killing of hawks, sometimes to actually eat the hawks, but mostly because to protect domestic chickens, they would kill the hawks so they wouldn't prey on young birds. Another really interesting threat that we found to this species, which you can see in the picture on the far right, is an infestation of botflies or parasitic nest flies that will lay their eggs. When the larvae hatch, they actually burrow into the skin of the nestling hawks. And it's not just hawks that suffer. Many different bird species throughout Hispaniola are affected by these nest flies. So they'll actually eat the flesh, eat the muscle of these poor young chicks. And we found, in one individual nestling, 60, 70, 80 different botfly larvae. So you can imagine the effect that this was going to have or could have on the population, well, was having on the population. So with that understanding of what kind of the main threats were, we were able to then create some conservation goals for the project for the species. And our 3 goals, I think, are very simple. One is to increase the abundance of the species. So as I mentioned, we started with about 250 to 350 remaining. So our goal is to have a lot more hawks breeding and reproducing and having a lot more offspring, increase the distribution. As you saw on the map, there was just one small red dot where the population was. And as probably most of you know, just having one isolated population really puts that population in danger. If there were to be a hurricane, a massive fire, even the spread of disease, it could wipe out the entire population in one fell swoop. So really having several populations on the island that were potentially connected, but really separate enough from each other that a natural disaster wouldn't affect the entire, all the populations on the island, and then really make the project sustainable in the long term. I think my quiz, oh no, one more slide before my next trivia question. So really our approach to this is to look at it holistically. And really we're trying to mitigate these threats from all angles. So the first one is nest monitoring and management, continuing to understand what's happening in the nests, managing for the botfly infestations. The second key point is assisted dispersal, which might be a new term, but it's basically a reintroduction program. But the difference is that instead of captive breeding birds, we're bringing them from the wild, and I will explain that a little bit further on in the presentation. Of course, environmental education, teaching people the importance of these hawks, the importance that they play in control of rodents, things like that. And of course, community engagement. So I'm going to be talking about all these things. Next trivia question. So Ridgways hawks nests are sometimes described as 2-story apartments. This is because A, they build their nests on roofs of buildings, they build their nests on top of palm chat nests, or they build a separate nest cup for each egg laid. Maybe I made these questions too easy.
Way too easy, Marta.
Next time I know better, I'll do some challenging ones. Yeah. More challenging ones.
All right.
Awesome.
5 more seconds to get your answers in. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Nice job. So 88% knew, yes, they build their nest on top of active palm chat nests. Awesome. So as I mentioned, our first goal is to increase abundance. And I talked a little bit about these parasitic nest flies, these bot flies. So just to give you an example, so you can see the bird on the left that it's got several larvae. This bird had many all over its body, but this is particularly noteworthy. It had several underneath its eye. You can see its eye looks a little bit damaged. And so the process, originally when we first discovered this and we're trying to treat the birds, the process was really labor intensive. We'd go in, we'd individually pull out the larvae one by one, which you can see in this image here. And then we treat the chicks every week with something called fipronil, which is what you might find in your flea and tick collar for if you have a dog or cat. But that was really labor intensive. So, every week teams would go out, they'd have to climb up into the palm trees, get the chicks, pull out flies, if they, fly larvae if they had it, treat the nest. This of course was disturbing to the adults, disturbing to the nestlings. So with the help of a biologist from Argentina, Martin Quiroga, he came up with a new treatment protocol using fipronil, using permacap, which actually only requires one treatment, and it's at the egg stage. So about a week before the eggs are laid, our teams climb up into the nests, treat the nest substrate, put the eggs back, and that's it. And the nestlings are almost 100% botfly free. So that's been a huge boost to the program, not only for our guys who are doing all the climbing, guys and girls who are doing all the climbing, but to the hawks themselves. So we don't have to go and we don't have to disturb the adults only just once. And so this treatment has actually allowed us to increase nest success 4 times over. So this has been really amazing. This has really helped us increase the abundance of the Ridgways hawk. So just to give you an example, in 2011, we were monitoring 37 pairs. They had 18 young fledge. In 2019, we were monitoring 144 pairs and 126 young fledged from those nests. Fledging means just flying for the first time or leaving the nest. So this, you can see that there's really been a huge increase in the productivity of these birds in Los Aitices National Park. So that really allowed us then to move forward and increase distribution. So because there are so many nestlings, and as you know, now Ridgways hawks can lay 1 to 3 eggs. So what we do is we actually remove nestlings from their wild nests in Los Aitices, and we bring them, this is when they're at an age before they're ready to fly, and we bring them to Punta Cana, which is the site of our first release program, which started in 2009, and then now to Añana Vargas National Park, where we started a new release site there in 2019. So the process is actually really cool, and this is based on, you know, some release techniques that the Peregrine Fund has been doing since 1970 with the peregrine falcon. So we bring several birds from many different nests. Usually we try and take birds from nests that have 2 nestlings or more, so that the parents remain with 1 nestling and we pull the second nestling. And we usually have birds in groups of 4 to 5, even up to 7 or 8 birds. Into this, you can see in this bottom photo, it's kind of an artificial nest structure that's closed off. So the birds remain there for about a week. They get food, and they just become used to the sights and sounds of this new area. And basically it's their new home. Each bird gets a band so we can identify it. And as I said, we need to feed the birds every day through the backside, where the birds don't really see us that often. So this is a technique that's been honed and practiced with many different species. Once the birds are naturally at the age when they would fly, in this case for the Ridgways hawk, it's about 42 days, sometimes more, sometimes less. We essentially just open the doors to the nest, we place food around the platform, and they'll come out and eat. And this is all part of their natural development. It's really cool to watch, and these young birds come out, watching them kind of, sometimes it takes them hours and hours and hours to come out that door. Some birds will spend the night inside the nest and come out the next day. It's just really cool to see how their different personalities emerge when you release them. And eventually, so what they do is they come out, they have food there, and eventually they'll begin to fly, they'll begin to develop their hunting skills as well naturally, because they know they can always come back for food at the site. After about 2 months or so, they'll start to come to the site less and less and less, and eventually they'll naturally disperse. And so that's our process for reintroducing birds to new areas. And it's been really successful. So in Punta Cana, as I mentioned, we were releasing birds, starting there in 2009. Last year, so there were 0 hawks there when we started doing releases. The last Ridgways hawk that was observed there was in the town of Higüey, about 70 kilometers away, about 50 or 60 or more years ago. So there are really no hawks in that area. We started releasing them in 2009. By last year, we had 18 pairs. Last year alone, they produced 21 fledglings. We've released a total of 128 hawks there, and we've had, since our first nest in 2013, we've had over 50 young fledged naturally in the Punta Cana area, which is amazing. And we had some also amazing news. So in 2019, we started releasing in this other national park. Last year, we didn't do any releases because of COVID. But our local crew there discovered a nesting pair, and they have one nestling. So it's already, we're so excited that already they're starting to breed in that area. And we're hoping to do some releases this year. So ideally we'll have the population in Los Aitices, the population in Punta Cana, and the population in Añana Vargas continuing to grow. So my next trivia question. A budding population of Ridgways hawks is now found in Punta Cana because Ridgways hawks really love the beach, because of natural dispersion, or because of a reintroduction program. Let's see. As we go longer and longer into the presentation. Oh, people, way too easy, Lisa. I'm sorry. Definitely more challenging questions next time.
We have a lot of on the ball people.
Awesome. I love it. I love it.
Okay, let me share the results. Hold on. Okay, hopefully you guys can see that.
Yes, thank you.
96% of you have been paying attention. All right.
I think we have a comedian too in our
yes, we do. A smart Alec.
Thank you so much. So that's, I think, our last trivia question. So what I want to talk about, really kind of the focus, one of the main focuses of our project is the sustainability, and not only sustainability for the conservation of the Ridgways hawk, but really sustaining the ideal of conservation, wildlife protection, habitat protection to last for generations, long after the Peregrine Fund stops working there, long after all of our local field crew retires. We really want kind of that idea of conservation, that understanding that we can live in harmony with wildlife, with nature, to continue. And so this is really where our community effort comes in. And I know community can be defined in so many different ways. We can talk about, just a small village. We can talk about a community of artists, a community of researchers. We can talk about an entire country, an entire island, an entire region. And so for us, we really, when we talk about community, we really mean everything. So the first part of our community work is really based on strong partnerships in the country and outside of the country. Of course, BirdsCaribbean has been one of our strongest supporters, and we've loved working with them. And then locally in Dominican Republic, of course, we work with the Ministry of Environment, but as I mentioned at the beginning, Fundación Propagás, the local zoo, and Fundación Grupo Punta Cana have really been keys in helping us to expand and to grow our program. And they support through in-kind services, through education. If you guys noticed the observation tower in the video of the release, or in the photo of the release sites, Punta Cana built that for us, Fundación Grupo Punta Cana. So it's really been helpful to expand our program, just having these in-country and international alliances. And of course, when we talk about community, we mean the local people. So what's amazing about Los Haitises National Park, which, as you remember, is where the last population of Ridgways hawks was before we started our program. There are several communities around that national park. And so these are people that are living with the hawks. A lot of these field biologists who are working with us grew up with the hawks. When we began working, almost 20 years ago, or more than 20 years ago, a lot of these people were children. They were children, and they saw people going into the fields. They were learning about the hawk, and they said, "Oh, when I grow up, I want to work on the project." And here they are working on the project, and it's been amazing. So we have a staff of about 23. 2 of us are not from the Dominican Republic, and the rest of the staff is from the Dominican Republic. And that's something that I'm absolutely really, really proud of. And I'm so excited for Gabriela to talk a little bit in a few minutes about her experience there. And so the local people that are working on our project, it's amazing. So they've been trained to do every single aspect of the field work. So they're climbing into nests. They know how to locate individuals and nests, data collection, data entry into computers, climbing trees, banding birds, treating the nest for botfly, to prevent botfly infestation. So they're really doing the bulk of the work. And it's been amazing really to see kind of this, this growth and this expansion of the program through these young people. And most of our crew they're in their early to mid 20s, which is amazing. But apart from just having, hiring local people, we really wanted our project to expand out to really be able to benefit entire communities. I mean, of course, having staff paid benefits them, benefits their family, and does in kind of an indirect way benefit entire communities. But we really wanted our program to have a larger outreach. And so, a lot that might come in some ways as well through employment. So for example, a lot of times when we're doing the reintroduction program, we're out in the field 14, 15 hours a day. And so being able to hire someone in the community to prepare lunch, being able to hire people in the community to do transportation, sometimes to do laundry. I mean, that really helps the community as well, and see the benefits of having the Ridgways hawk in their community through conservation. We also like to do a lot of workshops. So in this photo here, one of our volunteers is doing a workshop on making jewelry so that the kids can make some jewelry out of seeds and things like that and sell them when tourists come to observe the Ridgways hawk. Together with another partner, Grano de Oro, we were able to supply some t-shirts for the local baseball team, who are the Gavilanes, the hawk in Spanish. So that's really been incredible. And one other thing that's so important about community work, I think through education. A lot of times, it's easy sometimes to sit back and say, well, people know the importance of the hawk. Why do they still shoot them? But, for a lot of people, sometimes it's a choice between, well, if this hawk is going to eat my chickens, that affects my livelihood. So even though I know it's important, I have to make a choice. And many of us, probably most of us, would make that same choice if it was between feeding our family or protecting a species. I think most of us would choose to feed our families. And so one of the things that was really important for us was to find a way to have hawks in an area that didn't have a detrimental or negative effect on the people in those communities. So speaking with community members, understanding the biology of the hawk really helped us work to create this program where we provide free chicken coops. They're nothing fancy, but to everyone living in the communities who's having a conflict with hawks or who has a potential to have a conflict with hawks if there's hawks nesting nearby. And the wonderful thing about the Ridgways hawk is that they can only take very small baby chickens. So once the chickens grow up to be over 3 weeks old, really the Ridgways hawk is no longer a threat, so that people can keep their chickens in these coops for just a few weeks and then let them go once they're bigger. And I think it's been really, really successful. And one of the things that when we provide the chicken coop, you can see this gentleman here has a piece of paper in his hand. We just make them sign just kind of a promissory note that they're not going to kill any Ridgways hawks or other birds of prey, and that they're only going to use the cage to keep chickens in and not to keep any wild animals such as parrots or things like that. So that's been really a successful component of our project. And apart from the community work, which is of course directly hiring, providing services, helping to create an income through tourism and having them, paying them for services, we're also doing a lot of environmental education work. And for us, it's really about, letting people know about the Ridgways hawk. Most of the people that we talked to or had talked to when we first started had never even heard of the Ridgways hawk. And this is a bird that's only found in Dominican Republic and Haiti, and people hadn't heard of it. So it's really about kind of opening people's minds, hearing about the Ridgways hawk, understanding the importance that it plays in the food chain, the importance that it plays in the environment, and really kind of making a shared knowledge experience. So not just us talking about the hawk, but understanding their point of view. What's their view about birds of prey? What's their view about the hawk? What's been their experience? Kind of just coming to a mutual understanding and recognition about how important it is to respect wildlife, fostering compassion for living things. And that's been one of the favorite parts of my job. So one of the most important things that we do, I think the most effective in education, is door to door. We do also, of course, presentations, school activities, which I'll talk about, but going door to door to me is the most effective way. It's of course the most time consuming, but getting to sit on a person's porch, explain one-on-one about our project has been really beneficial. And it gives people the chance to ask questions that in a group setting they might not feel comfortable asking. So this has been, to me, like, it's my favorite thing, going to door, just meeting people and talking about our program. And then of course, we want to reach as many people as possible. So we do a lot of work in schools. We paint murals. We invite kids out to see the hawks at the release site. We do a lot of art. For me, is really important and a really great way to engage people in conservation and learning. So we do a lot of art programs with the kids. All of the folks in these pictures are people from one of the communities around the release site in Añana Vargas. So people are coming, learning about the hawk, and then wanting to go to schools to do education about the hawk, wanting to join us, learning telemetry, sitting at the hack site just to see what's happening with the birds. So people are really excited about this program. Of course, one of the things we do is we celebrate, of course, Ridgways Hawk Day as well on the 25th of May to commemorate the first wild hawk hatched in Punta Cana, thanks to our program, which was on 25 May of 2013. So for Ridgways Hawk Day, we go all out, we do art, we do nature walks, kind of a little mini birding festival. And it's a really great opportunity for these kids who live really close to these release sites to come out and see Ridgways hawks in person. And just this, I just wanted to highlight this one volunteer. Her name is Machi. She's 16 years old, so she just volunteers with us, but she's already learning to climb trees. This is a presentation she gave at her school of more than 150 students. And I have this picture of her holding a snake. One of the things in Dominican Republic is many people are frightened of snakes. There's a lot of misconceptions about snakes. And so just showing how she was just so eager to learn and to embrace new things and hold the snake, which was amazing. This was us coming back from the release site one night after dark. We found a boa. And finally, we're to really expand the word about conservation at Ridgways Hawk. We're doing teacher training workshops for teachers and then also for kind of young leaders in communities. And these workshops are really fun. They last between 2 and 4 days, depending on which workshop we give. And same thing we do on Ridgways Hawk Day. Kind of we get out, we go birding, we teach the teachers a little bit about bird identification. We put on a play, and they have to make their own costumes out of natural materials they find on the ground and recycled materials. We have Raptor Olympics, where we learn about the different abilities that raptors have. So we have races and push-ups and smelling things to represent turkey vultures. We do math activities, so we construct Ridgways Hawks out of life-size Ridgways Hawks out of recyclable materials. So it's kind of a really fun way for teachers to learn about conservation. And one of the things that we're doing now, thanks to BirdsCaribbean and Betty Peterson Conservation Fund, is creating this guide that we're going to be able to give to teachers, not only in Dominican Republic, but the guide is going to be focused on raptors of the entire Caribbean region. So we're working on this, we're getting it done. And I'm really excited to expand our community to the entire Caribbean region. And just lastly, before I turn it over to Gabriela, something really important, as I talked about, really the importance of having local people working on a project for so many reasons. And for us, this really came to light last year during COVID-19. Of course, I couldn't travel to DR, and neither could Thomas, who's the program coordinator. So everything, all of the education, all of the field work, 100% was done by our local team. And they did such an amazing job, and it's a ton of work. And it just really goes to show how easily we can transfer this program to local people and have them just be completely in charge of the effort. Results really quickly. I know I'm talking a lot. I'm just so excited about our project. So some really cool things that have happened recently. So this gentleman on the left is Anderson Jean, and he's from Haiti. And in 2007, he came to Dominican Republic to learn about the Ridgways Hawk, to be able to identify it. 2007. In 2019, he actually rediscovered a very small population of Ridgways Hawks in Haiti, which is just amazing news. And we're working now with him to see what we can do to help conserve the last remaining few individuals in Haiti. So that's just one of the outcomes that our project has, which has been amazing. Another person that I want to mention is this man here. His name is Timoteo. He is from Los Haitises, and when we first started, I've never met him, but our original team working down there met him. And Timoteo has said that in his lifetime, he had shot and killed over 100 Ridgways Hawks. We were able to hire him early on in our project, and he worked for our project for a number of years, and now he works as a park guard. So his attitude has completely changed from killing 100 hawks to now working to conserve Ridgways Hawks in Dominican Republic. And finally, this is another one of these stories where we really try and turn the situation around. So this gentleman here lives in a town called Masi Pedro, which is near our most recent release site. This bird, unfortunately, she decided to disperse over 50 kilometers from the release site, which is unusual. And she was eating this gentleman's chickens, and he ended up shooting her. But one of the bands that we put on the bird has our phone number, and he called us and let us know he had shot the bird. And so we went over there and spoke with him, and he now has become one of our greatest allies in this community. Unfortunately, because of COVID, we have some workshops planned there, but we did do a few presentations, and he is just completely supportive of the project. And it's just so important to us to see and to show the difference, going from shooting a bird to supporting its conservation. He's talking to community members and organizing talks before COVID, just to help us get the word out. So that's been really exciting, some really exciting results from our project. So as I mentioned, we have over 20 local biologists. We've reached over 13,000 people so far with our education program in 52 different communities, and trained 125 teachers through our workshop. So now I will pass it on to Gabby.
Hola a todos. Hi, everybody. I just want to say that pardon my English, like Spanish native speaker, so my English is not very, it's good, but you know, when I get nervous, sometimes I forget words and it's very funny. But yeah, thanks everybody for being here. I hope that you've been enjoying the presentation so far. I've heard this presentation so many times and I just can't get enough. Every time I love it more. So my name is Gabriela Diaz. I'm from Dominican Republic. I'm 26 years old and I'm a field biologist in the Ridgways Hawk project. So I didn't study biology actually, or ecology, or something related to nature. I studied hotel management, and by sharing my story, I hope that other people around me and you guys that are hearing me can get inspired and know that you don't need to study these things or get a degree in order to work in something that you love and to help the environment and to save a species. So in 2019, I was working in a travel agency because I studied hotel management and I wasn't feeling very happy about it. I just got up every day and cry and I was like, no, this is not what I want. I knew I wanted something like ecotourism or sustainable tourism, but here in Dominican Republic, there are a lot like to do still, and we don't have a lot of projects like sustainable projects. I think now in 2021, things are changing around the world, and people are more interested in our planet and saving species and in nature in general. So I have this friend, Eladio Fernandez. He's a photographer, fotografía de conservación, like conservationist photographer. And he told me about the project. He said, oh, I have this friend. He's the director of a project in Los Haitises and in Punta Cana. You should talk to him and tell him you want to be a volunteer. And so I did, and he didn't respond. And I was like, he doesn't respond, like, what? This is not for me. And then he said, no, talk to him again. And so I did. And we talked over the phone. I was so excited. He told me that he could have me in Punta Cana working a minimum of 4 months. And oh my God, Eladio, he was like, you need to stay those 4 months. You need to make it and show that you really want this. So guess what? I ended up staying like 7 months. I just fell in love with the gavilan, with the hawk. And so this adventure began. I didn't know anything about birds. It was so funny because when I was in college, I had a class where they show us birds of the Hispaniolan island. And I just learned those birds for the presentation that I had to do. And then I forgot. I just knew what a parrot was. And that's all. So this was super new for me. And it was a challenge. But I was so ready to jump into something new. And I'm so happy that I did it. So when I started, I didn't know anything. I just started from the bottom to learn things, to work day to day, to start observations. So like I want to give you an insight of what a day in Punta Cana, where I work with the Ridgways Hawk, looks like. This is like a full day of work. Usually they are not like that. They are more easy days, but this is like, I want to give you an insight of a full day of work. So basically we wake up at 4 a.m. to treat the nest with the permacap when the pairs have 28 days approximately incubating. So we climb the nest. This is my partner, my work partner, Eliseo. He's from Los Haitises, and he works with me in Punta Cana. He has like 5 years working in the project, and we get along pretty well. It's super interesting to work with him and to learn about him as well, because he has more years working in the project. And yeah, we climb the nest. We spray the nest with the permacat so the flies won't harm the nestlings. And then we climb back to the ground and start the observations when the sun is out. So we try to see 4 or 5 pairs of hawks in the day. This is an observation tower where we usually watch a pair there. And yeah, we write everything that we see, because it's so important to know exactly what the birds are doing. We need to know if they are incubating, if they have nestlings, if the nest fail. We are like the observators of the hawks. And then we rest because hawks don't usually are around at 12, 1, 2, 3, 4 p.m. And then again in the afternoon when the sun starts to go down, we go out again and watch other pairs. So when the nestlings have between 25 and 32 days, we climb again the nest and we band them. The bands are something like their IDs, and we can identify them. Blue if it's male, and red and green, if it's female. This is a chick that we banned the first year that I was volunteering. I was so excited to be holding a hawk in my hands. I was like, oh my God, I cannot believe this. So basically, that is a full day of work in Punta Cana. Marta, if you help me. This photo was the pretty first time that I held a Ridgways Hawk, and you can see it in my face that I was thrilled. I just couldn't believe that I didn't know anything about this species, and I passed to work with them, and I was so excited. I was like a child. So we can continue. So apart from being a field biologist, I usually help Marta in the environmental education. And this has been an amazing opportunity to connect and to see other realities in my own country. It's been so awesome to be able to share new knowledge for people that didn't even know about these birds. And you see in their faces that they get super excited. They are interested in knowing about the birds, and the kids are the best. They are always making questions, and I don't know, it's just amazing. So this taught me a lot. And how much the environmental education is important for making an impact on the species, because most of the Dominicans don't know about the Ridgways Hawk. So in 2019, I made some tours in Los Haitises, one of our main places where hawks are, and then in Aniana Vargas, that is the new release site. And oh my God, I got to brought a lot of people. This was one of the tours in Los Haitises, and these are usually city people that don't go much into nature and that are looking for new experiences, that are looking to get to know the community, and that are looking to learn about the Ridgways Hawk. So this was one of the tours, and I think I did 4. And I'm just so excited to start again because obviously because of the pandemic we couldn't do. But yeah, I'm super excited about that. So what impact the project has had in my life? It changed everything for me. It changed everything for me. I didn't thought that I was going to end up working in biology with an endangered species because, as I said before, I didn't know anything about these things. I've got to connect with the communities that hawks are, Los Haitises and Aniana Vargas, and get to know their reality and the work they do in there that is different in Punta Cana because they are like in nature there, and they need to climb mountains to look for the hawks. It's super interesting. And then in the environmental part, I didn't thought I was going to be teaching people about anything. So it helped me a lot with my confidence, and it made me realize that I can do whatever I propose myself to do. And I think that is the major gift that this project has brought me. Yeah, we can pass. And yeah, thank you. This has been my experience. I'm so glad that I got to share with you. And I hope that if you are not here in the Dominican Republic, that you come and visit us and come to see the Ridgways Hawk and this amazing project that is doing just wonders. And I want to thank Lisa and I want to thank Marta as well. So yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Gabby.
Thank you, Gabby. That was awesome. Thank you, Marta. Both of you did such a super job. This was really, really inspiring and just such an incredible story of many years of hard work, but how it's paying off is really awesome and just such a great model for other countries to follow. So we do have a couple of questions. Let's see. Let me get to one first. Thomas White asks, has this species been known to prey on Hispaniolan parrots?
Good question. From our knowledge, it has not. We have not. My guess would be Hispaniolan parrots are too large for the Ridgways hawk. They tend to take much smaller bird species. Yeah.
Okay. What are the most common prey species of birds anyway?
They will take palm chats. Gabriela, what other prey are you finding in the nest birds?
Woodpecker, is it in English?
Las aves, ¿qué son las aves que son presas del gavilán?
Carpintero.
Woodpeckers, yeah. Woodpeckers.
Palm chat. But they don't prefer them. That's like rarely. Yeah. They prefer other things.
Yeah, in a study, it was more rodents and reptiles that make up the largest base of their diets.
Okay. All right. Super. And then there was a message from Mike Dupuy. I think you might know him, Marty. He says, are you aware of the Ridgway sightings in Haiti? Yes, he says, Christina and I were with you back in 2015. So yes.
Hi. Yes, thank you. Yes, we are aware of that, and we're so excited. I haven't been able to go myself yet, and Gabby hasn't gone yet, but our project coordinator has been there to do some surveys, and we're coordinating with Anderson in Haiti to see how we can continue to conserve those last remaining individuals in Haiti, and hopefully find more as well. I'm hoping that's a good sign that there are some more birds there than we had originally believed.
Yeah. So now these are birds then that dispersed from the DR, right?
No, my guess is that these are birds that, I mean, we don't really know, but my guess is that these birds are more likely just remnant birds that were just missed when people were surveying. I mean, I think it would be difficult for a hawk to make it from DR all the way to Haiti to make it alive, just because there's a lot of threats along the way. If a bird with a band shows up, we'll know that it's one of ours, and then we'll know for sure. But my best guess is that they're a remnant. Yeah. Yeah.
And what proportion of the population would you say is banded?
In Punta Cana, probably 98%. In Los Haitises, that's a good question, but also, we try and band every single nestling that we can. So it's just kind of some of the adults also we've trapped and banded. But yeah, so a big portion of the population, and every bird that we release is banded. So a good majority of the population is banded.
Okay, super. Yeah. Really good data when you have all those banded birds, whatever. Okay, Michael Greenwald's comments, he says, I believe that some years ago, Kate Wallace had an organization trying to save the Ridgways Hawk. Does that organization still exist, and is there cooperation between the two organizations?
I don't know if Kate's around, but we do. I don't know if Kate was involved with this Ornithological Society of Hispaniola, perhaps back in
SOH way
back. Yes, with SOH back in the yes, and we were collaborating with SOH for a number of years. We don't as much these days, but Kate is still a great friend of the project. Absolutely, yeah.
And actually, her birthday was yesterday, so happy birthday, Kate! All right. Emma Lewis is asking. Oh, she was asking, do they eat lizards and mice, etc.? So yeah, I guess you just answered that. Yeah. And Aaliyah is asking, can you talk more about your experience working with the livestock farmers? How did you convince them to stop shooting the hawk?
Okay, so actually there's a lot involved with that, of course, as you can imagine. But a couple of things really helped. I think one of the things is kind of getting people to understand the importance of the hawks, balanced against them perhaps taking a young chicken or two, with the control that they have against rats in particular, which can be extremely detrimental, particularly to farmers and farmlands. I mean, rats can destroy entire crops. Also, people aren't very fond of woodpeckers. And so just having them understand that the hawk actually controls rodent populations and woodpecker populations. So kind of doing that balance of, okay, maybe its fee is it takes a little chick or two, but it's doing the services that it's provided greatly outweigh any detriment that it might do. That coupled with, providing chicken coops, so they actually have a way to keep their young chickens safe from the hawks. As I mentioned, once the chickens are about 3 weeks old, the hawks, they're too big for the hawks to take. So they can just keep them in these cages that we provide for a few weeks and then release them. And then they don't have to worry about hawks predating on them. And the thing with chickens is that it's not just, snakes, dogs, cats, the introduced mongoose, rats. Everything takes baby chickens. So providing the chicken coops actually really helps protect against all these other predators that might be taking the young chickens as well.
And I just think, sorry, Marta, I just think that people don't know about the importance of these birds. So they just see a bird and they say, oh, it's eating my chicken, so I'm going to shoot them. But when you explain that it's in critically endangered and that it's a bird that you can only find in our island, they are like, whoa, okay, wait. And then they become friends, they become allies of the project.
Excellent. Yeah, it just takes that communication and building that understanding and awareness. That's awesome. Okay, we have another question. Craig Jackson asks, I know that in much of Latin America, DDT-based pesticides are still used. Have you found egg thinning in the nests of Ridgways hawks?
We have not actually found that in Ridgways hawks. One of the problems we have noticed is actually with rodenticides. That's been a problem. That was a problem a couple of years ago. Many of our nestlings just essentially dropped dead. And we suspect, yeah, that it was from rodenticide poisoning. But thankfully, we haven't seen anything regarding DDT in the hawk nests.
Yeah, that's very good news.
Yeah.
Okay, Adrienne Tossis, our BirdsCaribbean president, she comments, I loved every minute of this presentation. The stories of the former hunters, now conservationists, were awesome. Congratulations to Marta and Gabriela for such great work. Are you planning to extend the project in the long term? What are your future plans?
Yes, absolutely. This is most definitely a long-term project. So one of our goals is to have at least 3 separate self-sustaining populations on the island. So, you know, we have Los Haitises, Punta Cana's budding. We're just starting with Añana Vargas. And depending on what happens with the population in Haiti, we could actually have 4 distinct populations of the hawk on the island, which would be amazing. You know, our education goals is that, you know, 75% of Dominicans know the Ridgways hawk, have heard of it, and can explain its importance and why it needs to be protected. So we're here for the long run. We've been here over 20 years, and my guess is it'll be at least 20 more before we can have these populations become self-sustaining. Yeah, which is amazing.
Happy
yeah,
to hear
it's exciting.
Yeah, got to keep teaching the kids and keeping it going.
Absolutely.
All right, we have a question from William Martins. I think he's one of our Betty Peterson donors. He says he's asking, has the government been helpful with your project?
Yes, actually. You know, we do a lot of collaboration with the Ministry of the Environment, and they're actually the ones that have to give us our permits. So without them, we couldn't legally do any work. But I think that they seem to be very happy with the project. Every year we turn in a report, we do a presentation, and yeah, they've been wonderful supporters of our project.
That's great to hear. And Thomas White is asking, have you ever witnessed any kind of interactions between the hawk and the white-necked crow?
I have not. Gabby?
Me neither. No, me neither.
Okay. No.
Okay. Let's see. Any last questions? If you have any last questions, do put them in the chat or the Q&A panel. I think we've covered just about all of them. Aaliyah, are there any from Facebook that we can answer?
Not at this time, but they enjoyed the presentation.
Great. Excellent. Well, everybody that's not a resident of the DR will have to plan a trip to go see these hawks. We can put you in touch with Gabby or one of the other local educators or guides. Kate Wallace is still taking people, she says, to see the hawks and Los Limones and Punta Cana, which is fantastic. And I haven't been back there in a long time, so I've got to get back and visit the project.
Absolutely.
So anyway, yes, thank you so much to everybody for joining in. Again, a huge thanks to Marta and Gabby for an incredible presentation and exciting news on the project. Congratulations, keep up your great work. And everybody, we will be holding a weekly webinar at Thursdays at 4 p.m. Next week, it's going to be on the West Indian woodpecker, which is an endemic woodpecker endemic to the Bahamas and Cuba and the Cayman Islands. And so weekly webinars, we launched our endemic bird of the day today on the woodpecker. We'll have one every day, and there's photographs, fun facts, puzzles, games, activities, coloring pages for kids, all kinds of cool stuff. I'm just going to share my screen one more time, so in case anybody wants to jot down our website or sign up for our newsletter, hopefully you can see that. And you can see information on how to join. And again, we thank the Betty Peterson Conservation Fund for their support of this project. It's been really fruitful and really rewarding to see how hard you guys have worked and how successful you've been with the funding that you've had. So we're super pleased, and thank you for all your hard work. Keep it up. And thanks everybody for joining, and we will see you again next week at our next webinar, and follow us on social media and online.
Thank you.
Thank you
for
having us.
Yeah, take care. Happy Earth Day.
You too.
Bye for now.
Bye.
Bye.